Okay, I think that has recovered. Do I have a connection? Okay, it's the middle of the night. There should be nobody here. Okay, seems to have somewhat recovered. All right, so today we'll talk about how much China has recovered and I'll show you some place to get data on your own, and I will also uh, I will also show some slides from this website, which seems to be somewhat useful. All right, all right. So what is this? This is from Baidu. So Baidu made this thing called 迁徙. Essentially, that means like migration. And you can, this is in Guangzhou, by the way, until the third. Yeah, so here you can see the trends, right? So in Guangzhou, um, the whitish thing is the congestion rate. Well, in Baidu's case, it's not really congestion. Maybe let's call them activity level. All right, so the activity level, uh, the traffic activity level in Guangzhou was pretty high, like four-ish. We don't know what the scales are, but let's say it's a four-ish before the Lunar New Year. And these are aligned in terms of Lunar New Year because they don't fall exactly on the same day. And then you can see that it was higher this year compared to last year before the New Year. And this is when Wuhan was locked down, and then and you can see in the last year the recovery was fairly swift after a week because um, that's how long the holiday is a week. Typically, you get a week off, and then some companies will give you a couple more days, just as like a goodwill gesture. And that kind of just recovered, and you can see these are basically weekends, right? You can see it kind of steadily climbs higher, and then you can see the effects of weekends fairly readily. And this line, well, up until ninth, and that's because they extended the Lunar New Year break until the ninth, and then there was a jump. That's the day on the first day back to work, and then you can see that compared to full um, activity, you're looking at about this is what 4.5 5. That's a 5, and here you're looking at a 1.6. So let's say 70% off. Yeah, exactly 70% off. And here we have recovered to about, let's say 60%. Yeah, about a little bit more than 60%, right? Compared to just before the Lunar New Year holiday. So that's Guangzhou. And then if we look at Shenzhen, um, okay, so that's where people are coming in, by the way. This. How much has that recovered? We'll recover to 3.35 from about a 5 point. This again about 70, 60, 70% recovered. The climb really started increasing around here. And Guangzhou and Shenzhen is basically the beginning and the end of the Guangshen Railroad. That's the name, where the name comes, Guangshen, right? And maybe some interesting city to other look. You can look at the rest yourself, but some interesting things to look at, like Shanghai. That was like 6.97. That was before the holidays, and now we're at about 4.5. Again, 60% plus, less than 70%. All right, so that's that. Okay, so now what about where does this data come from? We have no idea. This is wherever Baidu gets the data from. But you can get the data from an official source. Well, for however that is worth in China, because you know the tendencies. So this is from the Ministry of, I think, Ministry of Transportation, Motor Transport, or whatever you call it, but that Ministry of Transportation X, I don't know what that is. WB is probably like, I have no idea what that. Anyway, it's like DOT-ish. It says on the third of on the 3rd of March, I think that's the newest one I found, and that was published yesterday. The railways, what do you call those? Damn it, just roads, um, waterways, and civil aviation has sent a this is a 15.87 million people, and it was 2% less than the 2nd of March, and within that, railroad has sent 1.87 million people. It was compared to the same time last year, down 80%. And well, this is compared to the last day, right? So this is gonna fluctuate quite a bit. In terms of roads, down 61%, waterways down 78%, flights down 75%, and here's an interesting thing: the high speed, the highway network is only down 1.8% compared to same time last year. Although one should caution that there is a policy that was given out on, I think, beginning of February, that all the um, the expressways are supposed to be free for the duration of this entire like emergency state. So here's when the risk of the highways being state owned come home to roost. But okay, we all know that exists, but now that risk has materialized, it seems like a good time to get in. I don't think this will last forever. Maybe they will lose 2 months of revenue, or even 1 month, because this whole thing only started in February. So for now, they have lost 1 month of revenue. But in any case, they were gonna have 7 days free to begin with, because during the Luna holidays, they were free without this whole thing happening, right? So that's just a thing that. So they basically lost 3 weeks. All right, and for some reason, well, because it's free, now they're down the least, but they're not making any money. Okay, so railroads down 80%. Remember that number. Um, okay, here is on the 28th. They've got this web company has got some. It seems like it's some kind of satellites, right? So the so this is the replacement, well, supposedly the substitute of the Chinese substitute for GPS, Beidou. Has the name is kind of interesting, but you can look at it yourself. So this is saying that for until the 18th of February, 40 days of what's known as the New Year migration finished, and then the number of passengers are down in total 50%. Railroads down 47, roads down 50, and then you got waterways down 59, and flights down 48. And yeah, so that's that. That's the until the 28th. So for the 40 days, starting from something like January 8th, until February 18th. The entire 40 days is down 50%. And here are some other data that you can see. This is from the same, it's the same source actually. This is just their actual website, but they don't, for some reason, they don't publish the newest data on their website. This is the newest you can find on the website. This is actually on WeChat. The only reason I got this link is that I sent it to myself from a WeChat page. And if you want to look at it, you would have to follow them on WeChat. So anyways, not that I'm suggesting you do. So on the 26th, the railways is down at 83%, right? And then roads down 0.5. Oh no, that one has no comparison to the same time last year. And then flights down 78. And then high speed, the expressway network is down 18%. So you can see that compared to just 7 days, a week ago, we're recovering 4% less down compared to, I mean, this number, holy shit. In China, you don't see things start with millions. Typically, 10 million is the least you see when you account for almost anything nationwide. So, but yeah. So it's recovering, and then okay. So now, how does this affect GSH? Well, quite bad. This is close to GSH, where GSH is, but you can just take a look at yourself. This is not just that train, right? It's basically everywhere. I've been told by my colleagues that when they come back, this is how these trains look like. Uh, so yeah, so that's what you have. Basically, this is saying that aside from one cart, everything else had very few passengers, and then each station had like 10 people going up, which almost never happens in China. Yeah. Okay. So this one is talking about Guangzhou, the group. So remember GSH? If you saw my GSH videos, they had some deals with their parent company, and the parent company being the Guangdong Rail Group or something like that. And this is doing their accounting, right? So it's not exactly GSH because GSH hasn't published anything, but this is the parent company's data. Essentially, for Guangdong Railroad Group, they're down for the same 40 days that we previously talked about. Is they're down 44%, so slightly less compared to other places. And let's see. So this is the important part because everything else, like before 23rd, nothing really kind of it wasn't a thing. Like people talk about something happening in Wuhan, but it's not something you worry about if you're not in Wuhan. 23rd is when everything changed, right? So this is saying that after the actual New Year thing from 25th January until 18th of February, they stopped 2,000 pairs, 3,000 pairs almost of trains, and out of which these are high-speed trains. 2,800 of them. These are high-speed, which is high margin, and they're down 80%. So yeah, just expect like a ginormous hit to the 2 month these 2 months of earnings. I mean, good thing they basically stopped everything. So, um, yeah, they basically kind of stopped half of their trains or even more or something like that. Because normally each day, it's not too bad. So on, so let's say on the first part of that, the first half of these, let's see, this is so wrong. This number, I don't know what this number comes from. It says each day they sent 200 people, but we know that's impossible. So they sent for the first 15 days, they sent out about 30 million people. And after that, for the next period of time, they actually sent out 32 times what this is. 15 days, that gets to the 10th, 20 days, 24 days. Yeah, so after the whole thing has happened to the later half of this lunar migration, they only sent 7.8 million. So yes, I would expect similar things happening for GSH. So that would be, and people don't just generally just don't travel much. I mean, I look at restaurants downstairs, just people just don't go. All right, so uh, let's look at some comments. This place is cold as fuck. They turned off air conditioning. There's no central air conditioning because this thing spreads by aerosol. So like they're like, okay, tough luck. All your ACs are now off. So I'm sitting in the office, freezing to death, wearing a t-shirt and then a jumper and then a leather jacket, and I'm still freezing my fingers off. Holy shit. Okay, so bought it at around 17, want to buy more if the price falls below 10 USD, you think happening. I don't know if it's gonna fall below 10 USD, but you know, for the entire year, I mean, we can only predict somewhat reliably its earnings, right? In terms of pricing, it's another story. Earnings is gonna be crap this year. I think earning, if they break even, I'm happy. Um, all right. Senor Puente, you are here. You are. He just started. Will it not be necessary to keep the quarantine up until there's a vaccine? Well, if all right. So here you got two choices. You could either quarantine everybody and make sure no more die from disease, but everybody die from starvation, or you could get someone to work and some will die because of disease and some very few people will die from starvation, right? So okay, so that's that. And then oh, and then they also had to now disinfect all these things, so more cost, less revenue. Okay, so this thing is very, very useful. I think it's called capital economics, and then here's a link. You can see it yourself, and put it in, and let's look at some of that data. That's not very interesting, and this is, well, confirmed case outside China each day. This is just a typical exponential growth. So I think within a week in US we're gonna end up with 1,000. Give another 2 weeks in US we're gonna with 10,000. Total confirmed cases outside China, blah. Who cares? It's gonna spread everywhere. We just have to, kind of hang on and don't die, hopefully. Blah 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 blah. Here, look at this. This is quite interesting. You got road congestion. Well, let's imagine that road congestion is somewhat indicative of economic activities. Right? I mean, this we know that the holiday was extended to 2 weeks, right? So here that's the break. But then still you don't have any congestion. Now you got some, but this is about almost 6 weeks. So this is what? Um, Damn it. I forgot which day it is, but this is not the newest data, right? So they took data from what? Do they do it daily? Oh, they do it daily. Wow, this is cool. All right, that's cool. So I guess that's fairly new. That's probably today, yesterday. Data comes from Wind. I don't have access to that. You have to pay. I'm cheap. And this one shows a similar story as I just told you. The daily trips are down quite a bit, about 80% down, which is consistent. But my guess is that for the economically less active ones, then um, you probably end up with more down, right? So this one, 80%. This is only updated to the mid of February. And we, for some reason, we're not getting comparisons down here. But you can see it hasn't recovered that much, right? Compared to here. You would expect this thing to, normally, it would shoot back up to here and then drop off a little bit because that's just because, once the migration comes back, like there were a couple of days in the middle where you have very few activity, and then towards the end it will shoot back up. So that's an interesting one. And food wholesale price index. Well, see, the food is quite expensive now. It's more expensive than Lunar New Year. Oh, by the way, it I think traditions are shit, because you just end up spending more money. You can eat the same thing for 10% less if you just do it 4 weeks prior to the actual New Year, right? Why would you buy all that shit on the same day? I mean, like, you know, it, and then if you wait for a month, well, and have your feast, you end up paying 87%. But people want to stick to their traditions and eat expensive meal that are exactly same quality. Well, anyways, so in 2020, the food price is hovering around the same as, well, slightly higher than the actual New Year. So very expensive. So same thing. That's what I'm saying. If you don't let people get to work, they're gonna starve. You get 100% death. Well, not that bad, but like policy makers have a tough decision to make. I mean, I don't care if they made mistakes before when this thing just happened, but you cannot blame them for sending people back to work. Is it gonna kill more? Yeah, but the alternative is probably even more death. All right. And last one, that's interesting. Oh, that's the same my Baidu migration index. That's the same thing that we're looking at here. All right. So they get it from same place, but they don't know where Baidu gets their data from. Meh. Okay. So yeah, keep track on here. They seem to be updating it because they were specifically saying something like, if you have visited the page before, you may need to refresh your browser to see updated charts. All right. And this is not exactly correct. It is not exactly correct. This just means the epidemic. This is the actual virus. But okay. Um, for some reason, there's a spike here. But as I was saying, like, it wasn't a thing before 23rd, and suddenly it became a thing. So, and that is happening all over the globe. I think it was like a week ago in US. A little bit more than a week ago in US, it wasn't a thing, and suddenly people are all buying masks, and yeah. All right. That's all from me, and hopefully you have seen some source where I get my data from, and then you can check that yourself and keep yourself informed and maybe make some money on it. And otherwise, let's see if there's any more comment I need to address before I go back home. And oh, by the way, in where I live, there's no AC either. They turned off AC everywhere. It's freaking like I'm dying. All right. Oh, hi, Yibin. It's a good day to die. Uh, and any update on the GSA land sale that you referred in the previous? They haven't, in terms of the land sale. Um, I think everything now is just kind of taking a back seat. So they've sold it. They probably have collected the money, but either way, they're it might be booked into their profit for today, for this year, and then in that case, it could be that they can smooth out the downturn and eke out an earning. But all right, do you believe they will completely stop quarantine once food shortages start, or will manage quarantine? You mean in China? Uh, they've already stopped quarantining people. I mean, unless you're in Wuhan. In Shanghai, uh, in Shanghai, people are back to work. I mean, if you and you can see it here, it's like 70% of people back to work. Um, and yeah, it is very cold. It is very cold. Oh, it is very cold, and we have no heaters. There's nothing to heat you up other than your body heat. It's fucked up. When I go back home, it's still cold. Anyways, bye.